art is by nature a political function. We take life and we take what's going on around us and we make it into things that we can see and understand. We explain what we see. And if you get something from that, great. If you don't, great too. But trying to silence artists and musicians, that's right out of the fascism handbook. Stop the intellectuals, stop the artists, stop anyone from making sense of the madness. And my argument always to those people is, look, if you don't care what musicians have to say, then why do you care if they say it? Let them say it.
Hello, everyone. I am Kiki, your co-host, and I have a returning guest. It's been 11 years since last time we talked. Existing comedian, but when released in another voices based writer and yeah, this is the awesome Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I am VK Lynne. I'm an American singer-songwriter, and I'm very happy to be back here today.
We were so happy to get to know you back then, and that was all possible because of Eve's Apple. That was a thing back then.
Oh my gosh, yes.
11 years ago. It was a little group of women in metal and connecting all throughout Europe and North America, maybe even Latin America as well.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we had girls from, I believe, 23 different countries. There were 50 women in Eve's Apple. And it's still, I mean, it reverberates today. I'm still good friends with many of those women, and the connections that we made with each other, as it really is unquantifiable. I don't know if Lisa will ever understand how much she did for the entire scene and for women in general when she put together Eve's Apple. She really was a trailblazer. I miss her.
Yes, we all do. For those that are not in the know, Lisa Middelhoeve, the original singer from Xandria, was the founder of Eve's Apple, and her efforts in uniting women in metal last today. And we were able to see that develop and also meet so many women in metal because of that. We just recently had Lindsay Schoolcraft also return to the podcast. And it's always so lovely to talk to her, to talk to you again. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
We have been keeping an eye on you and your career, of course. And we're so glad that your solo project is now in full swing. Tell us a little bit about it.
Actually, Lindsay has been instrumental in that. After last year, we did a lot of touring. Last year, my band, The Spider Accomplice, we actually were out with Visions of Atlantis. So Clementine from Eve's Apple, again, we got together. And then we did a tour of Eastern Europe with Joel Hoekstra and Brandon Gibbs. Joel Hoekstra is the guitar player from Whitesnake and Trans-Siberian Orchestra, and he has an acoustic project with Brandon Gibbs from Poison. And so they took us along as their acoustic support act. So we did 10 countries in 22 days. And it was wild.
Damn.
Yeah, it was. We saw Serbia, we saw Hungary, we saw Romania. Really got in there and saw some really cool places that I might not have seen otherwise. So that was a lot of fun. And then when we got back, it was time for something new. It was really time for something new. The Spider Accomplice had been doing its thing for about 6 years at that point, and I was ready to try some new things. And so I decided it was time to try my hand at solo again. And I reached out to Lindsay because I knew she would know what I was talking about. And I told her what I wanted to do. And she said, you need to talk to Cody. He's your man. So Cody Johnstone has produced every song on The Spider Queen and will be producing the last one as well. And she was 100% correct. Cody and I got on the phone to talk about the project. And from the beginning, we were right on the same page and knew exactly what we wanted to do. I decided that the best way to do this is going to be to try a different approach to releasing, that I would challenge myself that every month of 2024, we would write, record, and release a song with a video every month
Wow.
And that at the end of the year, we'd have 12 songs, 12 videos, and I'm packaging it all together and with 2 bonus tracks that will only be available on the CD. And then in 2025, we'll release it as a full CD because I know the European listeners still love a good hard copy CD, and I appreciate that about them so hardcore. And that'll be the Spider Queen. So we just released the 11th song this week, actually. And so we are working on song number 12. And we can't believe we've made it this far because when you say it out loud, oh, a song a month, that doesn't sound so bad. And then when you're doing it, you're like, wow, this is a lot of work and you're never done. I said to someone, I feel like in the movie Elf, when Santa comes back to the workshop, it was another successful Christmas. And now it's time to start getting ready for next Christmas. That is how we have felt all year. We're like, okay, the song's out. And now we start working on the next song. So it's really kept us on our toes. And we've learned so much from doing it about how it's amazing what you can do when you set a goal for yourself and you hold yourself to it. And Cody said the other day, I'm like a shark in the water. I'm like, I know, man. Like we have a shorthand now. We know what we want and we can just crank it out. We're pretty excited about it. And we're gonna miss it when it's done. But next year, I got to take this show on the road.
Hell yeah. I hope we can see you over here.
Oh, I would love that.
That would be amazing. But that sounds like a daunting endeavor for sure. Especially the video part, because 1 song per month, okay, maybe, but it's also a matter of budget, right?
Yeah, I'm broke now. But what has really been helpful is for the video part, my husband is an actor. He's also a film editor. And we do live in Hollywood. So I've got lots of friends in the industry who pitched in. God bless them. They really did. I would call up my friend Ernest, especially, and Ernesto Ray. You'll see he's been on several of the videos. And I'm like, hey, what I usually do is I try to entice him. I'll send him the song. I'm like, what do you think? And if he gets excited about the song, then he's, okay, I have this night and this night. You can have those. I'm like, okay, great, let's go. And so we shoot. But there was definitely a few months where it was dicey. There was a month that I had to spend in Philadelphia when my mom had to have surgery, and we thought, what are we going to do? And so that month we did a lyric video. Wow. There was the month that my husband had pneumonia. He had bacterial pneumonia, and
oh damn,
I was sick too. And we're like, now what? So I had to do a lyric video. I had to edit it myself. Like I had to put it together and do it myself. And I was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? But again, if you tell yourself there's no other option, you have to do it, then you do it. It just happens. So it's been stressful, but it's also been an incredible learning experience of, oh, wow, I'm actually more skilled than I thought I was.
Oh, I bet. Also because that can be so difficult, right? To have accountability with yourself.
Honestly, this is something that my husband wants me to work on for next year. But I set these weird goals for myself, and I will drive myself crazy. I said I was going to do it that date. And he's like, you realize there is no consequence if you don't do that. And I'm like, but there is. I said I would do it, so I have to do it. So it's actually worse for me if I don't hit my own deadlines, because then I feel like, oh, I've let everyone down. He's like, no, you've just let yourself down. It's fine. I'm like, but that's even worse. It's crazy. I get crazy. Like the fact that the video for song 11 isn't out yet. It's actually very good for me that I'm staying calm, but there was nothing to do about it. I have COVID right now. And my husband also, today he finally tested negative because we're staying in separate parts of the house. He actually sent me a text a few minutes ago that said, negative, baby. I was like, woohoo. But we've been trying to do the video while both of us have COVID.
Wow.
So that's been an adventure. I've also learned sometimes you have to give yourself a little grace and say, okay, you're sick as a dog right now. There's nothing you can do. You'll get the video out when you get it out, but it will go out. It's going to go out this week.
And I think that is maybe the right segue even to go into the actual topic for today, because I think health can be so political, especially when your healthcare system is so difficult to deal with like it is for you in the States.
That's funny you should say that, because I posted last night, I think on Threads, I don't know where, I just know I was angry. You know when you rage post, we don't have a healthcare system. We have a medical industry. We have a business that believes that sick people is the way to make money. We put more of a priority on making profit from Americans being sick than we do on the obvious benefits of Americans being healthy. And until we fix that, we are not going to be a quote unquote healthy nation, period. I feel that a lot of other nations think, hey, if my citizens are healthy, they're more productive, they can work, they can do things, they can function. Whereas our nation seems to feel like, oh, if they're sick, they're going to come to the doctor more, they're going to buy more medicines, they're going to keep spending money. And they don't understand they're draining people dry. The amount of people who go bankrupt in this country because of healthcare is shameful. It's absolutely shameful. And I don't know if you saw in the news what happened yesterday. The CEO of a major insurance company was shot in the street. He's gone. And it is not a coincidence, I think, that his healthcare company, quote unquote, is one of the biggest companies in the Fortune 500 in this country, and also denies the most claims of almost any health insurance company. That when people have a claim, they deny it. He makes $10 million a year and denies sick people claims and coverage for things. Now, I am not saying he should have been shot in the streets, but I am saying that you back people into a corner long enough and things are going to erupt. And I think what these greedy folks should think about, they're getting very excited about the upcoming administration. They're getting very excited about deregulation and all of that. I think they should look at yesterday and just take a minute and think to themselves that in France, the guillotines didn't come out on day one. But if you want to see Les Miserables on the streets here, keep it up. People will only be pushed so far, so long. And there's a lot of anger right now. People are super pissed. And justifiably so. And when you start taking away people's livelihoods and people have nothing left to lose, that's a very dangerous place to be.
I agree. I am not sure about other nations' view on their citizens' health, but it is the most extreme point of capitalism to have, as you said, a medical industry, not even a healthcare system.
Yeah.
And that is just so sad. And it's so sad how a lot of people still defend the politics, the quote unquote American dream, the supposed freedom, etc., with which the US identifies or sells itself and its government. In my eyes. Yeah, we are talking on December 5th, so exactly a month after the US presidential elections.
Yeah.
And I think the whole world felt it, and the whole world held its breath in hopes of change, maybe, in hopes for a revolution, for a more peaceful type of revolution than the one you were describing.
Yeah.
Because it's dark times. It's a very scary state of the world right now. So I was curious about how you lived through that and how the past month has been after the elections.
What you just said, how people keep defending the American dream and all of that. Something to understand is that this is something that we have been taught since we were children. As soon as you get to school, you are taught that America is the greatest country in the world and we have freedom, almost like we invented freedom. This is pounded into your head. And the interesting thing is that the idea of America is all of those things. The original notion of the freedom to think and act and live as you see fit is good. And that is where the disconnect is happening in this country. There are people who feel if you criticize anything that is happening now, you don't believe in the country. And I think it's actually the opposite. Because the people who are criticizing right now are the people who are saying, but wait, we said this. Back in the 1800s, we said this. And now you want to do this. And they're saying, if you judge us, you don't love America. No, actually, we do love America. We don't love what you're trying to do to America. And that is the problem. Right now, we have, again, just completely unfettered capitalism and people coming into office who think that the way to make America great again is to empty its coffers for their own gain. And it's so blatant And it's so obvious that what disturbs me most is the people who either will not see it or can't see it. But more and more, I believe they just will not see it. And they're holding on to something. They're holding on to something that either feels comfortable or feels safe, but it is neither one. And unfortunately, they are going to find out. I mean, there's a lot of that F around and find out right now. We are already finding out. There is so much anger in this country. I've never seen anger. I'm telling you, anyone could go off at any minute. Everyone's full of rage. And there is no sense of community in terms of, wait a minute, we're all Americans. There was something magical that happened after September 11th, where we suddenly dropped all of our differences and we all were like, we're Americans. We all love each other. We came together for each other. And I don't know if that would happen today, because everything is down this line of, are you red or are you blue? Are you Republican? Are you Democrat? Are you pro-Trump? Are you anti-Trump? And there's no nuance. We've lost that because we live in such a meme society now. We want the easy headline. We want the quick, witty comeback. We don't want to think. We're lazy. We don't want to think. We don't want to talk. We don't want to discuss. We don't want to research. We certainly don't want to read. And I think that the powers that be have seen that that's very effective. So that's why they're trying to get rid of the Department of Education. That's why, that is number one on the list. Let's get rid of the Department of Education.
That is mind-blowing. What?
See, and it was mind-blowing when they first said it, and now people are not even blinking. They're like, yeah, that's probably going to happen. It's keep them sick, keep them stupid, keep them pregnant. And that is the game plan. And again, if you spent 5 minutes studying history, it seems like you should see we are careening towards danger. But we're just ignoring that. And I think that's what a lot of people are astonished by right now. Why isn't anyone doing anything? I was watching a documentary the other night. My favorite journalist is Hunter S. Thompson. And during the McGovern-Nixon election, he was there and he saw the riots and he saw everything that was happening. And it's interesting because the kids took to the streets, man. They took to the streets. The 60s, we wrote protest songs. We did sit-ins. We did protests. We were involved. And now we just tweet about it. And that's not really going to change anything. I think what's most disturbing is the hopelessness. I feel like there's just a sense of hopelessness, that there's nothing we can do, and we just have to let Rome burn at this point. We have to let the chips fall where they may. And anyone who speaks out or says anything in our world, you get a whole just shut up and sing, and musicians shouldn't say anything. This is ridiculous. Art is by nature a political function. We take life and we take what's going on around us and we make it into things that we can see and understand. We explain what we see. And if you get something from that, great. If you don't, great too. But trying to silence artists and musicians, that's right out of the fascism handbook. Stop the intellectuals, stop the artists, stop anyone from making sense of the madness. And my argument always to those people is, look, if you don't care what musicians have to say, then why do you care if they say it? Let them say it. Let them say it. If they're not important to you, then what they say isn't important to you either. So just go on by. But we don't want that anymore. We want to control what people say, what people think, what people do. If you look at social media long enough, which is disheartening to start with, but if you do, you'll see that most of the hate comes from a frantic desire to control. We want to control what people are doing and thinking and saying. And I think if you have to have that level of control, it's because you yourself feel out of control. I think there's a big problem. People are lost right now. They are lost. They feel like they have no control. They feel like everything is spiraling. And again, that's a dangerous place to be because desperate people do desperate things.
True.
So I keep saying in my post, wake up, America. But yeah, we're blissfully asleep.
Damn, you've said so many very important things. And like I've been trying to hold on to all the thoughts that I have. But the point you also just ended with right now was the hopelessness. That is so real. It's so real right now. And it reminded me to Amanda Palmer's newsletter that I absolutely recommend on election day. She said we are allowed to grieve, we're allowed to feel hopeless and down and all of the things, and we are allowed to cry, and we should feel all those feels and mourn this loss. But tomorrow we have to stand up again and keep fighting. Because especially towards women's rights, a very important topic for us here in the Bleeding Metal podcast, there's what Pia calls a war on women.
Yeah.
Right. And I agree with her because our rights are being attacked everywhere. It's not only in the US, and it's super scary.
Yeah.
And it is Handmaid's Tale scary. And it's just so mind-blowing, but we really have to stop all of those people who want to strip us from our rights and keep fighting to make the world a more equal place instead of the other way around.
Yeah. I've never seen the wholesale packaging of misogyny like we do now. We have all of these alpha male podcasters and whatnot out there instructing young boys on how to be men. I'm very fortunate. I am married to the alpha male. And I always say that. And I'm like, and the real one, the one who protects people and is kind and listens before he talks. And I do realize the more I see these guys that he's very different. Perhaps it's because he was raised by a single mother and he grew up with strong women all around him. And so he's not afraid of them. In fact, he enjoys them, he respects them. And what I am seeing from these guys, we don't even need to mention their names because it only gets them off. They are afraid. They are so afraid. And they're masking their fear as smugness and masculinity and hiding behind their wraparound sunglasses and their expensive cars. But at the end of the day, they're just terrified little boys. And so part of me wonders, what do we have to do to help men not be afraid of women? Margaret Atwood said, when you ask men what are they afraid of from women, they're afraid women will laugh at them. When you ask women what they're afraid of from men, they're afraid men will kill them.
Yeah.
That is something to really consider. And I've seen so much brazen misogyny in the last few weeks that I'm like, wow, they would have never said things like this before, but they feel emboldened. And so small men feel like they're suddenly big. And women are, again, being pushed into a corner. And they're going to be very surprised when women come out swinging, because I think they're already starting to. They're already starting to, and unapologetically so. My husband said, I fully support, because I said to him, I am going to get arrested. And he said, and I'll bail you out, babe.
Hell yeah.
He's here for it. He always says, I love that you're an intelligent woman with an opinion. And I'm like, yeah, because why are you afraid of an opinion? Why are you scared of that? It's a terrifying time. And you have to ask yourself, well, what am I going to do about it other than talk? I was a teacher for 15 years, and I have said to all of my friends, look, if they abolish the Department of Education and your kids need to learn stuff, I have an internet connection. I will teach them. I will make sure that kids still learn stuff. I am now at the age where nobody wants this uterus. If we start handmaiding it, I will be the person who helps funnel the girls out of the country. I probably just put myself on a watch list. I want the women in my sphere to know I am a safe place. I am a safe place, and I am also a place that will get super pissed and do something about it. I'm definitely not someone who's just going to say, well, let's see what happens. No, that's not going to happen. It's a dangerous time. And I do see some of the younger girls around me either worrying or sticking their head right in the sand. It's too much to think about. And because they haven't seen what can happen, they feel, oh, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's not going to be fine, guys. It's not going to be fine. Nothing is fine right now.
Yeah, but there are still things that we can do and steps that we can take. Do you have any actionable advice?
I think stay vigilant. Stay vigilant. Call things out when you see them. It's easy to become complacent, and we can't. We do have to get out, and we have to support the things that matter. Right after they overturned Roe v. Wade, the Gritty and Pink gang got a flatbed truck, went down to City Hall in Los Angeles and protested and did a back of the truck concert and marched and went nuts. Even if obviously it didn't change things, it sent a sign that the women are not just going to lay down. And what disturbed me a lot was this past year on the 1-year anniversary, they had another women's march. And I went, and it was literally a tenth of the size of the one the year before, and it was very controlled. You felt like, okay, we're going to let you do your little march here. But there were officers everywhere. At one point, they shushed us. I'm like, did you just shush a protest? What?
Mm-mm.
And the women who were quote unquote in charge of it seemed to be going along with, okay, this is our little protest, here we go, almost like we were having a cookie baking or something. And I thought, what the fuck are we doing? There's again this idea, if you can control the anger of women, the anger of women, we have got to get angry enough that it's not controllable. And that's when things are going to change. I know in Korea, they did the 4B movement. And I know there's a lot of talk about whether that's good or bad or what have you. I don't have an opinion on it because, like I said, I'm happily married to a good man. But I can understand the impulse. It's an ugly time. And I think the most important thing you can do is stay awake and don't let things happen without some kind of reaction. If there is pushback every time they try to take a right away, it's like they say when they interview rapists in prison and they say, how did you pick your victims? They always say they picked the ones that were easiest to get a hold of. Little things like if you fought too much, they would say you weren't worth it. If you fought, you had a much better chance. And I think we've got to remember that. We've got to fight by whatever means. If it means taking to the streets, if it means writing lots and lots of protest songs and screaming them from stages, if it means writing articles and blog posts, if it means doing your podcast and speaking truth to fucking power, keeping aware and not letting people tell us, oh, you're exaggerating. Oh, women have all the rights in the world. Go fuck yourself. Unless you are a woman who is living this right now, shut your hole. We know what's going on with us. We don't need you to explain being a woman to us. There's nothing more frustrating than a man explaining to you what it is to be a woman. We got to just keep our heads on and stop taking an easy way. I know when you post this, you're going to get some dude bros in the comments who are going to say all the nasty things about me. And do the thing, man. Do what you need to do. If it makes you feel like your dick is bigger, go for it. But it ain't going to make what I say any less true. So, yeah, women, keep your head up. Keep your head up.
It's funny because what you just said reminded me of, I'm not a true crime fan, but a friend of mine years ago said something similar. It was something about Charles Manson once said that he would choose as his victims the women who walked and looked scared.
Yep.
And so we had just gone out for drinks and we were saying goodbye and I was getting on my bike to go home. And she was like, head high, chin up, because that way you wouldn't fall into that kind of rape pattern. And I thought it was crazy, but at the same time, it made sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I have a friend. I think she has cracked the code. We had gone to some crazy little town in California because she's the woman I wrote my book, Puka's Born With. And we went away to write the book for the weekend so we could just focus on it. I guess we went to go get groceries and we were like walking down this street and there was this little gaggle of 3 Jews and they were just like sitting in a doorway. And as we were walking, we could tell from their faces, they were gearing up to say some shit to us and whatnot. I thought we were going to talk to each other about, oh, we should cross the street. Instead, as we got up to them, she looked one of them right in the eye and she said, hey man, how you doing? Gorgeous day, isn't it? And he was like, yeah. And none of them knew what to do. And we kept walking. And I said to her, you are my hero. And she said, dude, it works. Look them right in the eye, talk to them like a human being, and they will not know what to do with themselves. And I'm like, oh, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. It might not always work. Worth a try.
It is worth a try. That also reminds me of some videos that have been around social media right now of runners. Female runners and the protection measures that they are putting in place after a terrible femicide also in the States, if I'm not mistaken. It's exactly the same thing. The measures, every woman and very probably every person in the LGBTQIA plus community also knows the measures we take for protection, especially when walking through more dangerous neighborhoods or at night or whatever. The whole clenching your keys in your fist and stuff like that. We all know. I don't even have to describe it and you already have a picture in your head.
Right.
And it's just so terrible that we feel like it's our responsibility that as a society, the world feels that it's on women to defend themselves instead of being men, the ones who have to stop killing us and just stop exerting violence on women. And it's just terrible. And the more intersections you identify with as a queer woman, as a woman of color, as a trans woman, when you are more of those intersections, the riskier it is to do those things, to walk at night, to go partying. And it's just so infuriating.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what we do, right? We want to protect each other. We take all these measures. We walk with each other. We tell each other, message me when you get home safe, or I will text you the license plate of the Uber I'm getting on, or I'm going to share with you my location live while I'm getting home. And it is so sad, but at the same time, it keeps us hopefully safe, but it also keeps us together. And I think that is very important right now, keeping in dialogue, in contact with our communities. And I always say as well, when you feel safe enough to also stay in dialogue with the people outside those communities, with the people who might represent a threat to you. Yeah. If you are safe enough and, I don't know, you have a chat with a men's rights activist or just a right-wing believer of some sort. In the right context, it's still important to keep the dialogue open, because maybe we will be lucky enough and we will get through to them and open their minds and change their opinions and make this world a better place. Who knows?
That's a good point. That's a great point.
And it's exhausting and it takes a lot of energy, and it really is important to feel safe in order to do that. But it is the only way how we can change the world. And part of staying in dialogue, and as you were saying, just speaking our truths and saying things, it is also to combat all of the conspiracy theories and all of the paranoia that is going out there. And so I think that for the past decade, it has been so important to be an activist online. It also became very performative. We felt pressure to post things about specific conflicts or specific occurrences around the world, and we don't have to. Or it's also very valid to say, I don't have an opinion on that matter because I'm not informed enough.
Yes, that's that so much better.
Than just straight out saying something stupid. Yes. In my opinion. But at the same time, I think we should take these conversations offline a little bit and have it on the dinner tables. Yeah. Because nowadays there's so much disinformation being spread out on all the social media and all the media even, that it is important to debunk and to talk about those conspiracy theories, because I think I am feeling paranoid sometimes, and rightfully so, because there's so much ridiculous shit happening around the world.
Oh, yeah.
That we really have to take a magnifying glass onto many different things that are happening around the world and ask, but why is this happening? Why are they doing these things? What is their interests? If there's war somewhere, what are the involved countries getting out of this? Yeah. And also trying to take it with a capitalist lens, like what are they actually gaining and earning from this?
Right.
How's the weapons industry winning? Well, the world keeps those conflicts alive. And what is a certain millionaire gaining from supporting various governments around the world?
Exactly. And that is a huge problem too, that we have reached this peak point where you can present facts, statistics, and there are people who don't care. We have in this country a group of people who've discovered if you feed them the lie long enough and loud enough, they will just believe it. And it's gotten completely out of hand to the point where we now have an incoming leader who blatantly violates everything that his supposed base believes, but they don't care. They just don't care. And you have to ask yourself, why is he even saying these things? Because he's pandering to their beliefs. I don't think he cares for a second about Christianity, about family values, about any of that. He doesn't care. And of course he doesn't. He makes it very clear by his actions that he doesn't. But these folks want to hang on to something. They have discovered that creating this almost delirium and panic over LGBTQ, the hysteria around it right now is insane. The fact that anybody can walk into a bathroom right now and be attacked by some crazy person who wants to investigate your parts just because you have blue hair. What are we doing, guys? When I was a teacher, I used to say to my kids, we started the class with 2 questions. I'm like, what's the hot topic in the news today? And they tell me, I go, okay, so what's the real topic? Because that hot topic is not what's important. What are they trying to cover up? And if they have all of these people panicking that a drag queen is going to hurt their children, which a drag queen statistically is not going to hurt your children. Hear me now, believe me later. But if you're focused on that, you know what you're not focused on? You're not focused on the horrifying policy that's being rammed through right now, right under your nose. And they just don't see it, that if we turn the people against each other, the people won't turn on the government. It's so simple. It's so simple. You wonder how they can't see it, but they can't. They can't or they won't. And I know why people are disheartened. I know they're disheartened because you feel like nothing you say matters. No amount of truth matters because they want to believe what they want to believe and they want to hate so badly. Hate, unfortunately, is a stronger galvanizer than love. We have found that in the last 8 years. Nothing unites people like something to hate. The people that can benefit most from that took it and ran with it. Yeah. And I don't know where that ends. Actually, we do know where it ends because history has told us 100 times. And that's another reason we want to end the Department of Education, because if we don't know history, we're not going to be terrified to repeat it, which we should be, because we are going down that road. When I was in Europe for MFVF, I was talking to someone who was from Germany, and we somehow got talking about national pride. And she said, we do not have national pride. We can't have national pride. We will always be the country that did the thing. And I was like, wow. And I said to my friends here, I said, guys, we are about to become the country that does the thing. Okay?
Oh, no.
We've got to do something. And it is frustrating because sometimes you think, what the heck can I do? You said something very important about conversations on the base level, on the level of where you're talking to someone face to face. And a friend of mine was talking to her brother on the phone. And her brother, by all accounts, is a totally good dude. And he said that he was out at a bar the other night and he got just wasted. And he said it was too late to call an Uber and I couldn't drive. So I just staggered the 2 miles home at 3 a.m. And she immediately went, oh my God, weren't you scared to do that? And he's, no, I've done that a bunch of times. And she said, oh, and he got really quiet. And then he said, you couldn't do that. And she said, no, I couldn't. And she said, he was like, wow, I never thought about that. You couldn't do that. And she said, no. And they got off the phone. And 2 days later, he called back and he said, I have not been able to stop thinking about that. They have an older sister too. He said, you couldn't do that. She couldn't do that. All these years, I've been staggering around like a drunken lunatic and not worrying for a second about what would happen to me. And he's like, and you can't do that. Yeah. And again, this is a good dude, but had this huge awakening and was just astounded at the difference in the lives that we live. In moments like that, when a man says something, it's like, yeah, I couldn't do that. Or just to make them realize. And I know a lot of them are feeling very put upon right now. They're like, oh, I know, men are the enemy. Everybody hates men. You know, we've been dealing with it for several thousand years. So this is your time, Buttercup. Yeah, I just don't want to hear them complain right now because we've been making space and holding room for them for thousands and thousands of years. And women are just done. I think that's it. I keep seeing that a lot. Women are just exhausted. And they're just done. I don't know what happens from here because in as much as women and minorities and people who have been marginalized are just getting fed up and exhausted, the folks on the right are getting more and more self-righteous and more empowered. So it doesn't take a genius to see where all this leads.
Yeah.
We had better get our shit together or it's going to be an ugly mess. And honestly, I don't hold out a lot of hope that it's not going to be an ugly mess sooner than later. So batten down the hatches, kids. And like you said, we've got to stay in touch with each other. We've got to find community where we can. Because unless there's a huge shift and people really decide, okay, let's dial down the rhetoric. Let's dial down the hate. Let's really have a conversation and compromise. This is all going to end badly. Every historian tells us we're on the cusp right now. Yeah, I wish I had more hopeful things to say, but I don't.
On that note, that reminded me, I was just playing a video game, and one of the quotes of the video game is, "A happy country is the one without history." It's crazy. It's so important that we keep learning from history and that we actually know not to repeat those mistakes, not to let those things happen. But something that history teaches us as well is that revolution is not necessarily peaceful.
Yeah.
And for real change to happen, sometimes things need to escalate a little bit.
Yeah.
We have to stay vigilant. I agree with you on that one for sure. And we have to keep talking to each other and telling each other what terrible things are happening. So for someone who is not in the know, how would you summarize the current US politics in a few sentences?
Honestly, I would say go watch the movie Idiocracy. That's where we're going. It's terrifying. And I have so many lovely people that are from other countries that have reached out to me. God bless. I have this friend in Italy who was messaging me. He's like, "You do not need to worry. Nobody is going to vote for this man, no?" And I was like, "Is he a silly man?" I'm like, "Yes." I'm like, "But," and he thinks, "Come on." And I'm like, "Okay." And a Canadian friend said, "What are you worried about? It's obviously going to be a landslide for Kamala." And I said, "There's no obvious about it." He's, "Come on." And I thought, this is what's interesting. Other countries feel like, "Oh, come on, this is crazy. This is insane." And I don't know how to explain to them that we have entered a strange place where it's not apparently insane to these folks. And my mother is 74 years old. She has never cared about politics as long as I've known her. She is losing her mind right now. She said,
Wow.
"I do not understand." She said, "Especially people my age, we have seen what can happen. We lived through Tricky Dick, and we have never seen anything like this." And it's sad to see her so frustrated when usually this is a very peaceful woman. As fiery as I am, that is how mild my mom is. My mom sees the good in everybody. And she is very hard pressed to see the good in this upcoming administration. And she does not understand the people who do. I feel like we're all very confused out here. And of course, everyone hates California right now if they're on that side of the spectrum because they say we're communists, we're socialists. Again, this is where education has failed us because everyone who throws those insults has no idea what those words mean. We don't know what any of those words mean. The stupidity has gotten to a raging, screeching pitch. And unfortunately, I don't know what we do at this point. And I think that's something too. Nobody wants to admit that they don't have the answers. Guess what, folks? We do not. I certainly don't have the answers. And I don't think anybody has the answers right now other than hold on to your butt. There is no quick or easy answer to this mess. Because here's the thing, even if the election had gone the other way, half of this country would still be furious and feeling this way and ready to take to the streets to kill everyone who doesn't look or think or feel like they do. I talked to someone in the music community here who called me on the phone, which is so funny. People don't call each other on the phone anymore. We text, we email, we do that. But he actually called me and he said, "I called you because I know you're a safe place to talk because I've seen your posts." And I said, "Okay." Yeah. He's from a European country and he said, "I feel like after this election, I don't know if I belong here anymore because it seems like the majority of this country feels very differently than I do about what it means to be an American." And I was like, wow, that hit really hard. He said, "When I came here, I believed that this was a place of freedom and tolerance and love and like the melting pot. This is what we're supposed to be. The diversity was what made, and this election showed me clearly it's not." And I thought, wow, that's where we're at. That's where we're at.
When the idea of going to the States on vacation comes up and I'm like, maybe in 5 years. And people are like, "But why?" And I'm like, I had friends from Latin America living there on his last administration and things were not great. And I don't want to go there willingly. If I can avoid it, I don't want to.
I know. I wish I could say it's not like that, but I can't. Honestly, we live in a bubble here in California where most folks are sensible to what's going on. But you want to get people on the right riled up, just say California. And again, I tend to catastrophize a little more because I feel like somehow I just see terrible things happening. And so if it doesn't, great. If it doesn't happen, awesome. I'm not saying I want it to happen, but I'm saying this could happen.
Yeah.
And I would rather plan for the worst and be ready for it than to expect the best and be shocked. It's like people getting angry now when they predict a horrible hurricane. And then if it doesn't happen, they get really mad.
What?
I'm like, yeah. They're like, see, they made us evacuate and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, but what if it had been worse than you thought? You would have blamed them then and said, now all these people are dead. So we just want to blame. We don't want to take any responsibility. We want to blame people. We want to hate people. We want to say that this is causing that. The amount of crazy transphobia going on right now, if it weren't so harmful, it would be hilarious. Because I'm like, really? This is what you're afraid of? This is number one on your bingo card? What are we doing? What are we doing? I'm fortunate to know a handful of trans people in my life. And I got to tell you, they just want to live their lives. That's all. Just want to live their lives. They don't have any agenda. They are not here for your children. They are not here for your rights. Calm the fuck down. Okay? Statistically, there's a much better chance of one of these men who is complaining about the trans folks abusing your children than the trans folks. Yeah, I said that. And that's the other thing, too. I think we are conditioning people to be afraid to say things. When I was a teacher, we had reached that point where the kids were so afraid that anything they said would either be filmed or put on TikTok or they'd be canceled. And I thought, okay, they're not going to take any risks. Kids who take no risks don't have any creativity because they don't allow themselves to. If we have no creativity, we have no inventions. We have no discoveries. We have no breakthroughs. We have no cures. So as the problems of the world become more and more complicated, they're going to require more complicated and innovative answers. And we're not going to have those because we've taught people to just shut up and play it safe. So we are eating our own tail in every possible quadrant. And it's almost like we're going to deserve whatever we get. I have a friend who always says, you get the country you deserve. And I don't know, maybe we've asked for this. I don't know. Maybe this has been brewing for a long time. Maybe we've been walking around for decades saying we're the greatest country in the world without ever doing anything to make that true.
I think that is a very good point to wrap up with, especially the part about fear of being canceled. I think that is very prevalent right now among artists. Especially in the metal scene. People are so afraid of being canceled that they are not making as many political statements. But it's really, really important. That is why the Bleeding Metal podcast, we try to amplify those voices, the voices making strong statements, who are defending human rights, who are protecting the rights of marginalized communities, and who are just spreading awareness of all the shit that's going down right now around the world. So, thank you so much, VK, for all your wisdom and for your time. This has been a lovely and very interesting talk.
Yes, thank you for having me. And please, I don't pretend to have any wisdom. I just got what I got. And if it resonates with you, great. If it doesn't, don't worry about it. Don't listen to me. Say, go to hell. It's fine. But I think it's important that everyone considers these things and forms their own opinions. Because just ignoring this is not going to make it go away.
Ignoring things, just believing other people's words without really thinking about it, or just following in other people's steps. The whole thing, we can do better than that. We're more intelligent than that altogether. So staying vigilant and empowering with words to each other, just like you have to us now, is very important. Thank you so much. And thanks everyone for listening. We will have links in the episode description, and we will be back with more super cool talks with artists and also just with my other co-hosts. So don't forget to subscribe to the Bleeding Metal podcast wherever you listen, and also on YouTube. We are very close to reaching 1,000 subscribers, and after that milestone, we're going to be able to live stream on our YouTube channel. That would be really cool, so that you can see interviews while they are happening. And VK, whenever you're back in Europe, we would love to see you IRL again.
I would absolutely love that.
Yes. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everyone.